Welcome back to another episode of Drop the Mitts Hockey Podcast brought to you in partnership with Primetime Productions. We are joined by current UMass Amherst captain and fourth round pick of the Nashville Predators, Ryan Ufko. Ryan, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. I hope you had a good, little Christmas break and, enjoyed time with, family. And yeah, so you guys over at UMass, you're sitting 11th in the country right now. What would you credit as, the biggest or most significant factor in your team's success right now?
I would say kind of just our identity and the way we've been playing. I feel like we play a really aggressive system. We don't play like three forwards, 2D. We're a five-man system, and I feel like that's kind of helped us out a lot this year. Especially on our ice sheet and at home too. We play on a bigger ice, so I think practicing in that over the summer and during the start of the fall, bigger ice. I think that conditioned us a lot more too. That way, when we go into smaller rinks, we're really fresh and we can outwork and outwill teams.
Yeah, for sure, man. Mullins is honestly one of my favorite rinks to go, watch a game at. It's such a beautiful rink, and like you said, that bigger ice surface. Yeah, right now, man, I got the World Juniors on. Your teammate Dan Zlotmillis, he's participating as captain of Team Latvia in this specific tournament. Are you boys following that closely? I mean, obviously, you played for Team USA last year. I mean, are you rooting for Dan's? Are you still rooting for Team USA?
Yeah, we're all still following it. We're watching some of the game right now, watching them play Canada. This morning we watched Michael Harabo play.
Yeah.
They took on Norway. So yeah, we stay really close. Especially since we have guys there. So we try to watch as many games as we can and hope that they can do as well as they can. And then, obviously we have a lot of US guys and some Canadian guys, so we kind of bicker back and forth about who we think's going to win. But other than that, we're kind of just rooting for the guys that we know personally and that are on our team here at UMass.
Yeah, you got to participate in it last year. Obviously, you guys took home bronze. What was your favorite part about that tournament? And then what was your biggest takeaway as well from playing against all, the best of the best from every country?
Yeah, I think for me it was kind of just being able to wear the jersey. That was the first time for me ever to play for my country. So that was a real honor. And then the moment I just playing against that Canada game, stepping out on the ice, the whole arena was red. It was up in Halifax, so a lot of Canadians up there, but kind of just the environment every single game had. Like every game was sold out. Fans were screaming, cheering the whole time. There was no bad games, so I think just the whole experience was really special.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You mentioned the Canada crowd, like even in Sweden right now, like when it first started, the
Yeah, you
crowd
can
was,
see that
it looked like it
half
was,
the rink's Canadian.
yeah, like I saw all the Canadian flags. I was like, this is in Sweden, right? And yeah, dude, it was just crazy. And like, obviously, like, what was it like? That Canada roster last year was like absurd with the amount of guys they had. Like, obviously, you being a defenseman, like, what was your mindset going into that game specifically? And like, what was it like playing against some of those guys that you're seeing like in the NHL right now? Scoring goals and putting the puck in the net.
Yeah, I think, we tried we obviously knew who was all on that team and that they were really good, but I think part of it too was that we knew that any of them, like, were able to score or put the puck in the net. So I think we didn't really try to focus too much on one guy. I mean, we talked about Bedard a couple of times and, some of the things he would do, especially on the power play. So we kind of adjusted and, maybe tried to cheat out a little bit more towards like the dot in the top of the circle. But, other than that, we didn't focus too much on one guy just because, their whole team was really deep.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And kind of going back to UMass early in the season, you were named captain as a junior. Obviously, a huge honor, to be wearing that letter for your team. How much of an honor was it for you to be named captain? And then, what would you say your leadership style is as far as getting the team's message to the rest of the boys?
Yeah, it was definitely a big honor. Something I really look forward to. Um, and just to, have like we have players vote here and a coach decision. So kind of was just all tied together that, it would be me and co-captain with Aaron Bollinger. So, just kind of having him too it's not all the pressure and responsibilities on one guy as well. So, we have each other for problems or, just to lean on. So I think that's really unique and special about it. And then, you know, I think I kind of lead by my actions and by example more, like just the way I play on the ice. I'm really competitive, try to win every drill during the week throughout practice, and then every puck battle. So just trying to lead by example. Sounds cliche, but I think it's really effective, especially when you have a big group of freshmen and some transfers. This year we have, I think, 12 returning guys and like 12 new guys. So trying to just get them accumulated as quickly as we could. I think that was a big part of our success too at the start of the year.
Yeah, you mentioned, being able to lean on, Bollinger, and another guy I wanted to ask you about, that kind of has the same track, I guess, as you, Scott Morrow, another very skilled defenseman, a high draft pick, to the Carolina Hurricanes. Um, what types of things do you guys kind of learn from each other? And like you mentioned earlier, being able to lean on each other, like what makes you guys complement each other so well?
Yeah, I think a big part of it was that we lived together for 2 years, our freshman and sophomore year. So I think kind of just we were always around each other at the rink, away from the rink, in class, not in class. So kind of just picking each other's brains and watching NHL games and just talking about like, oh, what do you see in this guy? What do you see in that play? And then just kind of talking. And I think that's part of our relationship. We got really close through that, just watching each other on the ice. And then I think we've always had that chemistry since we got here. I mean, we've been on the power play together all 3 years, so I think that chemistry's only gone up.
Yeah, that was the big thing I noticed. I went to the, both games against Michigan. And that was one thing I really noticed is as far as like the power play goes, you guys were very like knew where each other were going to be and just were able to move the puck really well. So it's good to see that you guys, complement each other so well. I want to pivot a little bit to your early days, starting off playing hockey. Um, and then ultimately your path to get to UMass. Who in your life would you credit as the ones to help get you into the game and ultimately help you fall in love with hockey?
Yeah, definitely. My parents and my grandpa. I'm lucky enough that my grandpa and my grandma, they only lived 20 minutes away from me back in Long Island, so they were always around every day. I got to see them. But no one in my family actually ever played hockey. I just kind of stepped into it. Went went public skate a couple times when I was really young. Didn't like it, and then started playing street hockey over the summer, and kind of just took off from there. But I think my grandpa's probably he was the one who took me to all my hockey practices growing up and to my games on the weekend because both my parents worked, and then I have a younger brother who played too, so he was a handful for them.
Yeah.
So my grandpa did a lot of the work, and I definitely wouldn't be able to be here without him.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So like as you started playing more hockey, you started, moving up levels. When was it that you realized that you actually had a chance, to play Division 1 and then ultimately get drafted? Like when was it that you realized like, hey, I'm pretty fucking good at this game? Like, was there a certain point in time that you kind of knew like you had a chance?
I think it was probably when I was around like 15. Um, I just played for Mid Fairfield up in Connecticut. Lucky enough, my coach was Ryan Haggerty, who played 4 years at Boston College, was the captain of them, and then we also had Marty St. Louis, who is coaching the Montreal Canadiens right now. So
He's pretty good, I guess.
yeah, pretty good. Um, so kind of that, and then I went to play for the New North Jersey Avalanche for a year, and in that time, the national team development program scouting out their guys for the next year. So I was one of them, and then I got invited to the 40-man camp. Um, but didn't make the NTDP. But I felt like kind of around then I kind of knew that all right, like I'm kind of at the top end of my birth year, so trying to just ride on that.
Yeah, and then 2019 to 2021, you end up, playing for the Chicago Steel, of the USHL. You're away from home, Chicago's a decent way away. Um, what was it like, ultimately being away, and then that first, what did the USHL do for your development, and what was it like, kind of that first time being away from home?
Yeah, it was definitely something new. I don't think it would have been as successful without my host family, Billet family. I had a great family. I still keep in touch with them today. They've come out to UMass a couple times for games. And I've gone back out there to visit them. So, we have a really special and close relationship. I know a lot of guys who play juniors don't have that.
Right.
Sometimes guys have problems with their billets or they don't see things the same way. But I was really lucky. My billets were great. Lucky enough, they have a young son, and he's the same age as my brother, so those two always got along. So,
Cool.
over the summers, one or the other will come out to Long Island, or my brother will go to Chicago to hang out with him. So, it was really good. And then I think development wise was probably my first year. Just the way the Steel ran everything, just the guys there. Practices were really intense and really high speed every day. We had a really good team both years. So I think just being able to get those practice reps against guys like, Owen Power, like Gunnar Wolfontaine, Coronado, Samuskevich,
Yeah.
Brisson, Farrell, like Doan. You can keep going on and on and on with
Right.
all the guys, but just all those guys going up in practice against them every day, like I think that really pushed all of us. And we had an environment where it was really competitive. And I think that's a big reason why we had success.
You mentioned a lot of those guys that, all also played in Hockey East. Are those guys that like you're still buddies with to this day? Like even though you guys are at different schools?
Yeah, we all keep in touch every now and then.
Yeah.
If we play against each other, we'll say hi and catch up after the games. So, we had a really close group out there both years. So, yeah, it was definitely a great experience.
Yeah, you mentioned, the impact that your host family can have. And I've gotten to interview a couple guys and they kind of the common ground that I've found is that like the people that have really struggled, I've had guys say that it was really a tough adjustment and that their family, the host family played a huge part in that, just not being able to see eye to eye. And, the ones who ultimately had a great experience had host families that they, keep in contact still to this day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy how big of an impact that is. And, just being fortunate enough to have a great family to, live with. Um, Obviously now you're a junior captain for UMass, Hockey East. When you were touring schools, were there any other schools that you gave like serious consideration to? And then what specifically about UMass Amherst made you choose to go there?
Yeah. So I committed to UMass. I was 15, so I was fairly young. But I'm from Long Island, so always wanted to play college hockey, but kind of wanted to stay on the Northeast. I never really gave too much thought about those Western schools or in areas of like Michigan and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to stay in the Northeast, play in either Hockey East, or possibly go to an Ivy League school. My parents were big on education, so I looked at a couple Ivy League schools. Growing up, looked at, always wanted to go to like BC, BU, Northeastern, one of those Beanpot schools. But as I got older, kind of realized that really wasn't it for me. I visited those schools, but it was just kind of like a visit. Like I said, went to a couple Ivy League schools like Harvard, Brown, and then didn't know much about UMass at the time. But I was up in forgot where I was, but I was up in around Massachusetts for a tournament. And my advisors reached out to me and said, UMass wants to have you. Just why don't you stop by? You're driving right by it. Go check out the campus, meet the staff. So I went there, kind of fell in love with the campus because it's a big college campus, but it
Yeah.
feels like its own city. And it's not too big, but it feels big, but it's really not that big. And then met the staff, and once I met them, I kind of knew that it was different. It wasn't me trying to like give my interest into the school; they were interested in me, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
they took the time, showed interest in me, and obviously seeing guys like Kale McCarr, Mario Ferraro there at that time,
Yeah.
it was kind of a no-brainer that they produce NHL defensemen. So that's exactly what I want to be. So just stuck with that, and then here I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And like another thing, I was watching a while back the Spit and Chicklets when they went and I think they were kind of walking around with Morrow, I believe.
Yeah,
Your facilities are unbelievable. Like I was shocked. Not I shouldn't say shocked. I just was amazed at how beautiful the like facilities are and like obviously you guys are able to go skate whenever you want. Like how big of an impact is that like the facilities that you guys have and then obviously being able to go out on the ice whenever you want.
yeah, it's definitely a big impact. Like, a lot of schools like only have one rink, and they have to
Yes.
share sometimes with other sports or other venues. So for us having two rinks, it's really lucky. We get to go on the ice whenever we want. So it's really special.
Yeah, and then you commit to UMass, you ultimately choose to go there. And Coach Carvel's the coach, right? And obviously he's one of the best coaches in college hockey.
Yeah.
What about him makes him so great, and what is it like playing for a guy like Coach Carvel?
Yeah, I think just kinda his standard, like he told us today before practice, like, when guys come in, he recruits them, he tells them, like, he's gonna push you and get the most out of you. Like, if you wanna come here and if you wanna come to a place where you're gonna be challenged, but you're gonna get better, like, this is the place for you, but if you don't want that, then this isn't the place for you. Like, um, we try to do things to the highest level and the highest standards, so I think he just gets the most out of his players.
Yeah, and before, I should have asked this before the last question. You mentioned guys like Kale McCarr, Mario Ferraro, who both, are having great success at the next level, in the NHL. Have you ever had, the chance to talk to those guys and learn anything from those guys? Like, what is your biggest takeaway watching guys like, Mario and Kale?
Yeah, just knowing that, like, I'm in their shoes and that they were in my shoes. We have an alumni program here at UMass, so guys still playing hockey to guys who are working office jobs come back, and we'll have Zooms or even in-person meetings during the winter break. While we don't have school, so a lot of guys come back, catch up. We all have a mentor or a mentor group, so it's really good. It's our alumni here is really good, treats us really well, so it's good to have.
Yeah, that's huge, especially for your development and your growth. But diving into your pre-draft process, obviously it was the COVID year, so it was a little bit different. Not like your typical draft, right?
Yeah.
Um, obviously you're going through this process. Um, what do you remember going through this entire process? And then I like to ask all the guys that have been drafted if they've had any, bizarre draft questions from GMs or executives. Like I've heard some pretty hilarious ones, like asking what type of animal you are, and then obviously I can't remember who it was. I think it was Stevie Y was grilling someone about smoking pot or something. I can't remember who it was, but stuff like that. Did you have any weird experiences, as far as draft questions go?
Yeah, so my year was COVID, so all the draft meetings and the questionnaires and stuff like that. So we did
Yeah,
those over Zooms. I know now, and what they used to do is with the what is it, the like showcase or whatever, the testing thing they do in Buffalo,
yes,
wherever. That's where
yes.
they normally do a lot of the meetings there because the guys are up there for the full weekend. So they'll do their like off ice testing, skate testing, whatever, and then I've heard guys say that like they meet with teams all day long up there. But ever since COVID, I think they do a lot more Zooms. But I remember the first one I got. It was the first interview I got. I knew like guys in the past said like, yeah, there's some weird questions. There'll be some hard ones. I remember I think a lot of us on the Steel at the time did the Montreal one. So they ask you like favorite what animal do you compare yourself
Yeah,
to?
that's
So
exactly what it
we were
was.
all we were all prepared for that one, but I got them at the end of the year. But I remember at the start of the year it was like October. I did one with the Rangers and it was going well. And then the guy asked me, the person who hates you the most, how would they describe you in one word? And I had no idea what to say.
Dude, my brain would be in a blender.
I was like, hold on, give me a minute. Waited a minute. I was like, I don't know, like competitive or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was like my first one, and I was just not ready for it.
It's so crazy how they, like, construct those questions, and, like, I always wonder about, like, the rationale between, like, what exactly they're looking for, like, especially the animal one. Like, I had, Zach Benson on, and he said that he was, like, a golden retriever, and, like, he was like, "I don't know, it was the first thing that came to mind," and I was
Yeah.
like, I wanna, like, I wonder what they're looking for and, like, what the obviously, there's not a correct answer, but, like, what they're looking for in those answers. I don't know. Um, and then all that, ends 4th round, 115th pick. You hear your name to the Nashville Predators. Take us through that moment. Have you heard from any of the current Predators to kind of, congratulate you when it did happen, and kind of offer you any like mentorship?
Yeah. So I actually at the draft they had the World Junior Summer Showcase going on. So I was there. The Sweden and Finland was there. So we were all in Detroit at USA Hockey Arena. So it was in the middle of the week. So I remember we had practice the night before and we all watched the first round in like whatever the ballrooms or whatever.
Yeah.
So we were all in there, like U.S. guys, like Swedes had their own room, Finns had their own room, but we all watched. We watched guys like it was Boucher, Coronado,
Yeah.
Lucius, Samuskevich. Those guys went, and then the next day we had practice in the morning and a practice at night. But the practice that morning was split up, so it was like 10 to 12, and then like 11 to 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
So the second round started. I think it was 9. A couple guys got called, and then we all were on the ice. So then we came off the ice, and guys are looking at their phones. We're in the locker room taking our helmets off, and guys are just yelling like, "Hey, you got picked here, and you got picked here." And I remember one of the guys was just like, "Oh, if you got picked Nashville," and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like,
Yeah.
all right. Looked at my phone, it was blown up. So
So you've been to Nashville, obviously. Did you go to development camp
yeah,
this past year?
I've gone 3 times so
3
far.
okay, so you've been to 3 camps.
Yeah,
What is your like, what would you say your biggest takeaways, from, those development camps are? Because a lot of the guys we get to talk to, the biggest things is, the stuff off the ice that you learn as far as, like, the nutrition,
yeah.
the lifting, and obviously, you know what you get with drills on the ice, but yeah, for you, like, what were your biggest takeaways from, development camp?
I would say the biggest takeaways was just it was kind of just getting to know everybody. I think the staff down there in Nashville does a really good job trying to just go out, like make you feel welcomed and
Yeah,
kind of at home there, and just trying to connect with every single guy that they invite. I think that was one of their best things that they do. You know, nothing's crazy on the ice or even off ice. Like we do some testing and stuff, but nothing crazy. Like we have a lot of meetings just about nutrition, sleep. They gave us a bunch of presentations on like mental health stuff like that. What it takes to be an NHL player, just because they show us a calendar of like 1 month of their schedule. Like you guys play 82 games. We
yeah,
play every other day. Like you got to fit in free time. You like a lot of these guys have families. Like you got to fit that in. So kind of just the whole process about it, and then like I said before, just them going out of their way, having meetings with guys, and just catching up with guys. And I think they did a good job of us trying to connect to player because
yeah,
half the guys are in Europe playing or
right.
in Canada in different leagues. You don't really know anybody too well, and then if you're lucky enough to sign there, like you have to get to know them. So I think they do a
Yeah.
good job of trying to connect everybody together.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, a lot. I got to go watch the Bruins one. It's just so awesome to see all the different things, as far you mentioned the testing and, getting to watch the guys that have retired that played
Yeah.
for the organization. Like it was so cool to see. Um, I wanted to ask you prior to this, um, growing up, did you have a favorite team? Obviously, you being a New York kid, favorite team growing up, favorite player, and then as far as now, you being at UMass, are there any guys in the NHL that you kind of see a little bit of yourself in?
Yeah, so growing up, from New York, but don't like any New York. I do like New York teams, but not my favorite. My dad's from Pittsburgh, so I was always a Penguins fan.
There you go.
Them and the Steelers. So growing up, loved Crosby, Malkin, Letang, those guys, but loved Crosby the most. Always watched him. Still watch him now.
Yeah,
Just what he does.
so crazy what he's still doing now, dude.
Yeah,
Like it's just outrageous.
what he does is he's so smart.
Right.
I've always obviously watched him. They had a lot of success as I was growing up. 3 Stanley Cups too, so that was always good to watch, fun to watch.
I think those baby blue winter classic Pittsburgh
Yeah,
jerseys
those are
are
nice.
a top 3 for me of all time.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
nice. I like those.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I love the Penguins, and then guys I like to watch are Adam Fox. I
Yeah.
like watching him. He's from Long Island too. I've skated with him a couple times, so just being able to watch him, I know how to. I've seen him skate. He's similar in size. I'm not the biggest guy, neither is he, but he manages a way to produce a lot. Up for the Norris, won the Norris. So
Yeah.
just watching guys like him. Another guy from Long Island I like to watch is Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah.
Being in Massachusetts, we get all the Bruins games, so
Yeah.
watching him, he's really dynamic. He can kind of do it all. He's physical, fast. Can produce points, but he's also a shutdown guy. So kind of those two. Just I don't know. I've skated with a couple of them, a couple of times back at home, so kind of have that affiliation.
Yeah.
Enjoy watching them just because I get all their games too.
Right.
Rangers and Bruins, I get both their games, and two guys I like to watch.
Yeah, both two probably top 5 defensemen in the NHL. I mean, those are pretty good guys to, model your game after. What areas of your game, would you say that you take pride in most? And then what are some areas of your game, especially this year that you've really tried to pinpoint, and focus on improving?
Yeah, I think I take pride in like being physical. I would say, you know, this year I've had a couple times where like I have big hits or whatever.
Yeah, it's huge.
I've always tried to have that, but being smaller like doesn't mean you can't be physical.
Right.
And I kind of learned that throughout like juniors and getting here. Like if even if you just have to bump a guy a little bit, it still gives you that extra 1 2 seconds for you to have time and space and make a play, or slows down a guy like a forechecking you. Like if you bump him, like stop his momentum, slow him down. So kind of that I've always like taken pride in just because I feel like it helps me a lot. And then, obviously I love to be offensive. Try to make plays at the blue line, try to create offense for me and my teammates. So I think kind of my strong suit there is around the blue line, just trying to like manipulate the wingers coming out. A lot of the times the forwards will just come sprinting out at the blue line. So, if you can mix in 1 or 2 head fakes and get their feet turned one way, I always try to get their feet pointed one way, and I'll just go the other because you can't
Yeah,
recover. It's like when you cross over, like when you're in the middle of a crossover, they teach kids when you're younger, like you can't get out of it. So
right.
try to just do that and try to focus on that.
And there was one you mentioned the physicality aspect of your game, and that's exactly what I kind of recognized when I was watching that game. Is you had an opportunity, not an opportunity. You hit Rucker McGordy, who's a big dude, and it just you had no fear in hitting him, and obviously you were able to take him off the puck. And I was like, wow, for like not a small kid, but like a smaller defenseman, just being able to kind of not have a huge bone crushing hit, but being able to remove a player like that from the puck. I
Yeah.
mean, it's something I think you're really special at doing. Um, the last question I want to ask, as we've kind of been doing these episodes, talking with college kids and whatnot, we've had people comment wanting to know, um, what piece of advice would you give to like kids that are kind of growing up right now, playing the game, early in their career? What types of advice would you give them as far as on ice things, off the ice things they can do? To get to that, next level and ultimately get to play college hockey.
Yeah. So for me, growing up, I loved watching like I said, I was the Penguins fan, so I always watched Penguins games. But I think one thing for me was just turning on NHL Network, especially when you're a young kid, and just watch a game, maybe pick a player, and just kind of watch what he does and the little details that he does. I feel like that was something that I could try to focus on and was able to implement. And then lucky enough for me, like I said, I had Ryan Haggerty and Marty St. Louis as my coach, so learning from them from when I was 10 to 14, like that's every kid's developing like for 4 years. I got to learn from him. Like he was a Hall of Famer. So
Yeah,
kind of just learning like little details. He was always harping on, like stick on puck. Like you don't need to have your stick on the air. Um, before you get a pass, like take a look. Like know your next play before you get the puck. Just little things like that really stuck with me. And then, our whole team, we ended up having success out of that. But the one thing was probably, that everybody has a different path in hockey. There's so many paths. It's not like any other sport because every other sport plays through high schools and then you go to college and then you have to like declare for the draft after college, like basketball and football. But hockey's really different, and there's many ways you can go. There's prep school, there's AAA hockey, there's high school hockey in like Minnesota. That's really really good. So for me, I think the biggest thing is just there's different paths and there's different timelines too. Like you can go into college as a 20-year-old freshman. You don't have to go
right.
in when you're turning 18. So, some guys I've noticed, especially at my age when I was going through the process of college recruitment and stuff, guys, would freak out and get all mental, get in their head about like I don't have a school coming at me yet, or the school wants me for like 2 years, but there's guys my age going in now, but it's all a process. Everybody's different. Like you see in the NHL, guys who get undrafted are making millions of dollars right now
Yeah.
playing first line. So everybody's different. So that's the
Y-
biggest advice I would have.
Yeah, to put it into perspective, I think you said it best is like how rare it is to see just a straight 17, 18-year-old kid go right into, Hockey East. I think literally this Macklin Celebrini is like the first that I've seen in years, and I've been watching college hockey for years. And just you said it best. Everyone takes different paths, and how rare it is to just be able to come out of school and just go right to it. It's very rare how how often it happens. But that's awesome advice, man. I really can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. Obviously, I know you got a busy schedule with hockey, and you're on break with. I don't. Are you back at school yet?
Yeah, we came back yesterday.
Okay, so yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck the rest of the season. You guys are ripping it up right now, 11th in the country, and I think you guys have a serious chance to make a run. So yeah, man, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ryan Ufko, junior captain of the UMass Minutemen and fourth round pick of the Nashville Predators. As always, we are joined. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Primetime Production. Be sure to listen to the episode before this, World Junior stuff, NHL news, all things hockey. So take care, guys.